What if I told you you could still have, quote, gallbladder attacks after your gallbladder is gone? Are you confused, clutching your side, wondering how is this still happening? Or maybe your doctor told you everything looks fine, but your body keeps screaming otherwise? Have you ever said something like this? It feels exactly like a gallbladder attack, but my gallbladder was removed years ago. You are not imagining things. You are not crazy, and you are definitely not alone. One of the most overlooked but scientifically documented causes of post-gallbladder pain is something called sphincter of Oddi dysfunction, or SOD. And today we are pulling back the curtain on this tiny valve that could be causing big problems. We're diving into the science, the symptoms, and most importantly, what you can actually do to stop the pain and finally feel like yourself again. So let's get into it.
Gallbladder gone. Now what? Let's heal from the inside out.
Welcome to Gallbladder Gone? Now what? The podcast for Christian women navigating life after gallbladder removal. Hosted by Jami McQuivey, holistic nutritionist, wife, boy mum, grandma, and a firm believer in God's design for lasting health. Did you know that over 1.2 million Americans have their gallbladders removed every year, and that the majority of them are women? Even more eye-opening is that all gallbladder issues are digestive issues. And poor digestion is at the root of up to 80% of all disease, including hormone imbalances and weight struggles. While Jamie isn't a doctor and this podcast isn't medical advice, she shares real solutions rooted in research, experience, and God's Word. Let's get practical, biblical, and real, one step at a time.
All right. So after my gallbladder was taken out, I've told you stories about how I got sicker and sicker. Well, one day, I was at the park with my family, and we were just enjoying some time with some friends, and I started feeling an attack coming on. And anyone who's had a gallbladder attack knows it kind of hits out of nowhere, but you can kind of, for the first 15 minutes, kind of feel it coming on. And and so we were at the park, and I said, "Babe, we got to go home." So we got in the car quickly and we started going home. And by the time I got into the house, I was vomiting and I had diarrhea and I was in excruciating pain and I didn't know what to do. I was like, "Wait, I don't have my gallbladder anymore. What is going on?" And so it lasted, well, felt like it lasted a lifetime, but it probably lasted 2 or 3 hours and it was excruciating. And afterwards, I couldn't do anything but just lay there. And I mean, it wiped me out. I was so exhausted and I was terrified to eat. And so we had just moved into town, and one of the things, I had no insurance, I had no doctor. And so I went to this free clinic, and it just so happens that there was this doctor volunteering there, and he took some blood. One of the things that they said is that my liver enzymes were elevated. And I said, okay, so what does that mean? And he's like, I don't know. Right. So at the same time, I was also diagnosed with hyperparathyroidism, which is not the thyroid, but the parathyroids. So I was really grateful they found that. But as far as my liver numbers, nobody knew why, and they didn't know why the pain was there. And so again, I had to go back to the board and research for myself because I didn't want to have this pain again. I didn't know what caused it. And I'm a why gal. So I want to come to, like, I want the root of the problem so I can fix it and not just cross my fingers and hope it doesn't happen again. And so what I want to talk to you today about is this sphincter of Oddi. And it always just reminds me of a Greek, or not Greek, Norse god type of thing, but no, it is a tiny but powerful muscular valve that is located at the junction of where the common bile duct is and the pancreatic duct, and those merge and they empty into your small intestine. So you don't necessarily have to know that unless you're like me, who's like, okay, I want to see what's going on. I want pictures. So you can look that up. So, but it has a very specific job. So its job is to control the flow of two fluids, two incredibly critical fluids when you eat. And that is bile from your liver and digestive enzymes from your pancreas. So it's kind of like a drawbridge that opens when you eat and it closes when you're not digesting. And so this coordination between the eating and the fluids it matters a lot. So when you have SOD or the sphincter of Oddi dysfunction, um, what is happening here? So after the gallbladder is removed, bile flow becomes slow. Well, it's probably already been slow and sluggish, and people hear all the time about the sludge that's happening, and there's this steady drip, right? And sometimes the sphincter of Oddi just doesn't adapt. Um, and so this is where if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that it's not necessarily a gallbladder problem, it's the liver problem that, and that liver problem causes a whole bunch of other problems. So sphincter of Oddi is one of those problems. So we still have the liver issue going on, even though you took out your gallbladder, right? But there's not a lot of data that the doctors can get, like, if unless your liver enzymes are elevated, they just assume your liver is functioning fine. But it's causing a lot of backup in these organs. So when this happens, the sphincter of Oddi becomes spastic, or it becomes stiff, or it just refuses to open up normally. Now, this doesn't mean this wasn't happening before. We just all thought it was only the gallbladder. So there's some things that can be happening at the same time. So correlation, causation, it's not necessarily important, but it gives us an idea. So when this does not open, or it's stiff, or it's spastic, this causes bile and or pancreatic fluid to back up. So like I just said, when you have these digestive problems in the liver, it like causes, think of a river flowing to the ocean, and it gets stopped up, it gets dammed up, and then it kind of spills over, and it causes a whole bunch of problems, including but not limited to like getting murky and yucky, and it causes all sorts of problems. And so we want things to be free flowing and feeling good. So the pressure of this backup creates sharp cramping pain under the right side under the right ribs, right, in the upper abdomen. So that's also what maybe a lot of you had, the pain before you got your gallbladder out, or you're trying not to get your gallbladder out, but that pain, whoo, it's really challenging to not be, it's so intense that it's like, I don't care what's happening, let's take whatever is causing the pain out. And then people get really frustrated because, well, it didn't fix the problem. And so that pain can still happen. And then also that pain can radiate to the back and to the right shoulder. So there's this radiation that happens. And then in some cases, there's the nausea, the bloating, and then sometimes vomiting. And in serious cases, as mine started to be, elevated liver enzymes start to happen, and even pancreatitis. So we do not want to be messing with this. And so again, being really frustrated with the doctors in my story, because it was just like, well, I don't know why. Um, well, I needed to find out why. And so this is what I've noticed over time, a familiar cry of many people, especially because I'm dealing a lot with women, because we know that most of the gallbladders that are taken out are in women. And so it's these women not feeling listened to. So, how is the sphincter of Oddi classified in medicine, in the modern medicine world or terminology? So, there are three types. So, type number one is that pain that we get, and abnormal labs, and enlarged bile ducts. Okay, the second type is that pain and either abnormal labs or imaging. So, you know, they found something else as well. Type 3 is pain only with no medical test abnormalities. So this is kind of where it gets tricky. So I had, well, I don't know if I had type 1 or 2. They really did no imaging for an enlarged bile duct, but I know I had abnormal labs and the pain. But type 3 is the most common in women post-surgery. So it often gets ignored. And this is where I get really irritated because it gets ignored and labeled as anxiety or IBS. So this doesn't mean it isn't real. And I want to repeat that. Just because no one else can see your pain does not make it less real. And so I want to give you a few statistics on this. Yale researchers published this statistic in 2008. Women wait an average of 33% longer than men to be seen in emergency rooms in experiencing abdominal pain. I think that's because of the next few statistics I'm going to give you, which is there is a well-cited study in the book Invisible Women by Carolyn Perez that reports that women are more likely to be diagnosed with a mental illness before receiving a correct physical diagnosis, especially in cases involving pain or digestive disorders. I know for me, when I went in and my gallbladder was all over the place and I was experiencing so much pain, my doctor told me I was depressed and needed to be put on pain medication, completely dismissing and that anything physical really could be going on. In a 2022 meta-analysis by the journal called Pain, researchers found that women's pain is more likely to be underestimated by healthcare providers compared to men's, even when reporting the same intensity. So, just because someone doesn't understand the pain does not mean it's not there. And this is where, as women, we absolutely need to advocate for ourselves. And this is where I had a student that I was teaching, and she was in excruciating pain, and she had had an appendectomy. So her appendix had been taken out. And so she was vomiting and all these things at post-surgery. So she comes to class and tells me that the doctor thinks that there might be a tear in her stitches and things are dripping and they're all over the place. But he has space to see her in 2 months. And my jaw dropped. This girl she's on tons of pain medication, barely get into class. She is in excruciating pain. They kind of have an idea that she's in leaking from the inside, right? And they'll see her in 2 months. And I told her, I said, this is where you need to advocate for yourself. You need to call them and say no, and then go to the emergency room and refuse to leave until you're listened to and until you're given the help that you need. This is where women need to become assholes. We ask questions, we don't leave, we advocate for ourselves. Because who is at most risk? So for the sphincter of Oddi, the most common is women ages 30 to 60. People, women included, who've had gallbladder removal, those with a history of biliary colic or gut sensitivity, and anyone with high stress or trauma stored in the gut. Now, my next episode 21 I will be deep diving into stress and trauma and its effects on the gut and pain. But until then, you can go back to the previous episode where are your words making you sick and sabotaging your digestion? Because emotions absolutely play a role. And so I want to be clear. It's not in your head, it is in your mind. So there are some things that we can do. So when I was told that it was in my head, it was very offensive. Because it was just like, oh, you're imagining it. But when I learned that there are the brain gut axis and that there's ways to actually heal our gut through changing the way our mind functions, our neuro pathways, that's a completely different conversation. And so I will be deep diving into that next episode. So, what does it feel like when you have SOD? So, again, it's pain right after eating, especially fatty food, and it can be pain that wakes you up at night, bloating or a tight, stuck feeling under your ribs, almost like you want to like get in there and massage it. And episodes that can come in waves and they can last, from 30 minutes to hours. So, like I said, mine lasted for hours. And it wasn't the first one I ever had, it was just the most intense. And that really triggered me to find the bottom of this. So, how is it diagnosed? So, first of all, oftentimes we need to ask the doctor and be like, hey, I need you to do these things. So, first of all, they're going to take some, check the liver or pancreatic enzymes. So, yeah, my pancreatic enzymes were crazy. My liver numbers were crazy. And that should have tipped him off, but it didn't. They can also get an ultrasound, a CT scan, or there's a special bile duct MRI called an MRCP. And if they're really being thorough, a test called manometry, which measures the pressure inside the sphincter. So many people, especially those with type 3, which is the pain, but none of the other contributing factors, are never they're never tested, therefore they are never treated, and they are left in pain. And that is completely unnecessary. Suffering is not an option here. So we're going to go back and get the help that we absolutely need. I'm sorry, usually I'm actually upbeat about this, but this is a topic that I get really passionate about and really upset about because um, of the lack of information and knowledge. And oh gosh, just being in that amount of pain is horrible. So there are natural ways to support this sphincter's function, and that is the good news. So there are safe, natural ways that this tiny little valve can be helped and reduce the pain it is causing them. So let's talk about that. All right. So one of the top ways that I absolutely support, and you're going to notice it's a theme across a lot of my podcasts, is castor oil packs over the liver. All right, so I have the link in my show notes, which will show you my fit, like a great castor oil pack. And this is where castor oil reduces inflammation, it stimulates lymphatic flow, and it helps the bile to move more freely. And if it's that sphincter is spasming or stuck, this is a way that just totally relaxes it. And so this is I would say every night, just learn to sleep with a castor oil pack. I know it kind of ruins your sheets and your pajamas, but get a crappy pair of pajamas and it's fine. Okay. And but minimum is 3 to 5 times a week for 30 to 60 minutes. But if it were me again, and it is me, I do castor oil packs 5 to 7 times a week, and I sleep all night with it. So we take that castor oil pack, we put some castor oil on it, and we place it over the right abdomen, up near right under those ribs. And then you can add a hot water bottle over it. Oh my gosh, feels so amazing as it relaxes that sphincter. And again, best thing to do is do it before bed. It'll help you sleep better. I just absolutely love it. All right, the second thing I'm going to suggest is that you take some magnesium. So magnesium is a muscle relaxant. So we use this to relax those smooth muscles, including the sphincter of Oddi, sorry. So this is magnesium glycinate or citrate. I do have that in my link for getting 10% off of my favorite supplements. And so make sure to look at that because this drink, I actually really enjoy it, is super nice. I'm drinking it right now, making sure that, I have the magnesium. Most of us are magnesium deficient anyway. Um, so doing that is going to be fabulous. All right. The third thing is stress can trigger the that little sphincter of Oddi. So, and that increases spasms and attacks. So activating the parasympathetic rest and digest system will help calm the valve. And I will be talking about that in the next episode. So stay tuned. So this is things that we can do daily. Deep breathing before meals. All right, humming, singing, or gargling activates the vagus nerve. Also, gentle yoga, prayer, meditation, gratitude journals, bringing that stress level all the way down so the body can heal and relax. All right. So the next thing, the fourth thing that I suggest people do, and we've talked about this in past episodes, is getting that bile to move, right? That sludge. So just because you took out your gallbladder and it had gallstones and it had sludge in it doesn't mean that it's gone, right? So it's going to be going through the liver as well. So it's going to be sludgy in the liver, and we can even have little stones forming in there. And there's something like hundreds of miles of ducts in the liver. And so keeping that clean and moving. So some of my favorite herbs and support systems is um, the bitters. So dandelion root tea and sunflower lecithin is another one. I just get it from, I have it in LinkedIn for the 10% and from Full Script. And so it's high quality, good stuff. Um, and liver support herbs like milk thistle or gentian, which I've talked about and will continue to talk about on other episodes. But you could just start, seeing how some dandelion root tea or some burdock root tea would be able to help as well. And milk thistle tincture, I really enjoy. Um, so we're going to add that all of that will be linked of my favorite ones. And I always link these because when people don't know, they just go to Walmart and get some crap supplement. And so it does matter the supplements you take and the way they're made. And so we want to give you the most bang for your buck and get you feeling better as soon as possible. All right, the fifth thing is that we're going to do things that reduce the triggering of that valve. So, making sure when you're eating that you do not eat till you're stuffed. So this is going to be eat till you're about 80% full, right? And then chewing that food really, really, really well. Choosing healthy fats like olive oil and avocado, and even one that's easier is coconut oil for those without a gallbladder. And then the triggering foods of avoiding things like fried food and caffeine and too much sugar and alcohol. So those are the five things that I suggest, which is the castor oil packs, magnesium, stress relief, herbs that move and thin bile, and then some dietary changes. Now, again, I have a full program that goes through this 7 principles to heal digestion, manage weight, and then you can choose to take the course that balances hormones or the one that does the detox and the rebuilding of the body. And so I suggest that you get with each program you get the 7 principles to heal digestion and manage weight. And then on top of that, you get to choose the direction. So make sure that you look into that, please, because there's so much more that goes into this. And you will just keep getting sicker and sicker. And unfortunately, most doctors I've met aren't going to help you understand what is really going on. So there is a time that you absolutely should seek medical help, and hopefully it doesn't get to this point for you, is jaundice. That's when your skin starts to turn yellow. That means your liver is in absolute distress and you need help. So make sure to watch the whites of your eyes. If they start to change, we need to start doing some things. But if you get full on jaundice, then you're probably going to have to go to the hospital. Fevers and chills, infection starting to set in, persistent vomiting, pain that radiates to the back, and any other signs of liver or pancreatic issues. You may need to go in and get some imaging, some labs. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to do these 5 things and eat a diet and diet and lifestyle things that are going to help heal your body. So remember that you're not imagining your pain and you are not alone, and these symptoms are real, and there are absolute tangible things you can do about them. So it is not in your head. You are not crazy. It's sphincter of Odin dysfunction. Odin, I keep saying that because it cracks me up. Sorry. The sphincter of Oddi dysfunction is real. It is underdiagnosed and it causes very real pain. But once you know what's happening, you can support your body, calm the system, and take real steps towards relief. So that is a wrap on today's episode. So just to recap, we talked about and learned about the gallbladder pain is real, that there is a name for it, and there are 5 actionable things that you can do to find relief. And I talked briefly about there's 3 ways that you can absolutely get on your way to healing. One is to purchase my DIY program. That is the most popular. People want to do it on their own. If they want to upgrade to a one-on-one, that's fine. We just upgrade them. We don't have to buy 2 different things. And some people just want a 60-minute consultation. All of those can be found in the links in my in the show notes. But make sure that if you want any of this information, I always have PDFs. Again, links in the show notes. And next episode, we're going to be talking about stress, the overlooked root cause of gallbladder pain even after surgery. And this isn't going to be just about, oh, you need to calm your mind and oh, let's get our stress under control. It's an actual real physical thing that we're going to be talking about. And once you learn how to do it and incorporate things, you start to feel so much better and the body starts to heal. So until then, happy digesting, and I will see you in the next episode.
If this episode encouraged you or offered practical insight, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Leaving a review, subscribing, and sharing with even one friend helps more people discover this message, and Jami is truly grateful for your support. Be sure to check the show notes for free downloads, helpful resources, and a link to join Jami's private Facebook group for extra support and community that blends practical health with biblical truth. Just a reminder, Jami isn't a doctor, so always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health plan.